Hey, everybody, and welcome back to week 4. Today, we're going to be starting on a new class, the complete video production, OBS Studio and DaVinci Resolve. It's kind of an older class. It's been around since 2015, but I saw enough in this class to want to include it here. The first of which is that kind of gives you an idea of how long OBS Studio and DaVinci Resolve have been working together successfully. In this video, we're going to be talking about the first 3 sections, which is why we use those 2 programs. Then there's a little section over here about a review, and most of it's pretty exactly what we've just seen in the last couple of days, but there is some pretty serious little pearls of wisdom. They came to us just because this presenter has a different perspective than the other presenter did. And in fact, I've been following him on YouTube for a while, and he puts out some great videos. He really has a different way of looking at things that I appreciate. So throughout the course of these guys here, I found some great little pearls of wisdom that I've already implemented into my workflow that I'd like to share with you guys. And just some neat things that the other stuff didn't really cover. I mean, they touched on it, but they didn't really cover on it. And then the last section 3 here is a series of little videos that are just helpful things that wouldn't come up in a manual. They are kind of an in-context video, like how to do the Star Wars lettering was one of the videos, and along that kind of line, where it's not so much a how-to video, other than how to get your creativity working around with the hard and fast information that we've been taking in over the last, I don't know, 20 videos or so. It seems like a lot. It probably isn't that much, but uh, anyway, in an effort to keep this short, I'm going to get signed off here and get started up here. And don't forget that all the stuff that I leave out is because of, number one, we've either covered it. Number two, it doesn't fit into something that we would consider as advanced. I've already had many years of video editing and the video editing 1 course here with FRCC. And 3, the last thing is just some of it just simply doesn't apply to why I'm doing an independent study, which is mainly about creating my workflow with this specific software. All right, we'll see you in a second. Thank you. Here we are in section 1, and basically we're talking about what's the selling points on DaVinci Resolve and OBS, and that's a very simple thing. DaVinci Resolve and OBS both are free. They both work really well, and they work every bit as good as well as any piece of software that is paid. In fact, many of the softwares like Premiere Pro and what's the other one? We'll just leave it at Premiere Pro are subscription based now and are very expensive. And they are what I call built on the cities of ruins, like Rome here. Premiere Pro has been around for a long time. It served its purpose for me, but I just can't get next to paying almost $100 a month out of my business when I can buy the professional version of DaVinci for $300 and lifetime updates. Even if they do decide to change it to a subscription service down the road, I will be grandfathered into an industry standard software. Resolve kind of made their bones with their color grading stuff, and we see many motion pictures nowadays have been color graded, and like the new Dune movie, the new Blade Runner movie are some very, very stark examples or shining examples of the very intense color grading that went along with all that stuff. It's easier to use, and the Australian company Black Magic Design that came up with all this stuff are also a manufacturer of video and audio hardware, meaning that they make the control surfaces for Fairlight, which is the sound software, and they make the control surface for my keyboard here, which we've talked about a lot. And those are my reasons, just a few of my reasons for running DaVinci. I like how things are laid out a little bit more simply and are a little bit new. I like the flow of let's just work from the beginning, middle, end here, and everything is presented in just that way. It's very difficult to lose your way, even if you go the big pictures. You're going down the line here. You start with the media pool. You can go to the cut page or the edit page depending upon what kind of clips you're chopping up. And then from there to either Fairlight or color correcting, and then finally to the end of to the delivery thing, which is just really rendering your stuff out. So there's that, and I just love it. And of course that's only my opinion. But for OBS, it's more than just an opinion. The closest bit of software that does what OBS does that I use, which is making these recordings, I have a couple of cameras, I have high-end microphones, I have several environments, several scenes that I pass and forth back between. It's nothing more than the click of a mouse for me to go through all this stuff here, and for you to see what's going on is just literally the click of a button. It took me, maybe all of a half an hour to learn how to be camera ready for all this stuff here. That said, though, there is many, many more functions of this that I don't know how to do yet, and that's one of the things that we're going to explore here. And there are also some things here that I don't understand yet or don't know about yet. How DaVinci and OBS are kind of made for each other. They're supposed to work together really, really nicely, and I'm excited to see that coming up. So that's my spiel on the sales spiel that this guy gives us on our thing. But it's not really so much of a sales spiel as it's just an opinion. And right now things are working well for me. So that's it. We'll see you guys in the next one. All right, guys, here we are back for section 2, which is the video editing in DaVinci. And what that really is to us is it's a review, and it's picking out some things that we didn't get to see in the last couple of weeks with the other guy, the crazy Russian guy. And so I'm going to spare you the reviews. I'm going to spare you guys the very, very overly simplistic stuff, and I'm going to spare you guys the stuff that doesn't directly apply to the Blackmagic design keyboard that we use every day here. I'm sure you're tired of hearing about that by now. So to come down here, I'm just going to start DaVinci, ching ching, and I'm going to move over to this part of things. Maybe just this. I'll get rid of the keyboard for now since we really don't need that. So I found something that I kind of want to show with you guys that we didn't really get to see last time around. You know what? Let me reopen this here again. I missed out on an opportunity there to show you something. Okay. One of the things we love about Resolve is it reboots fast. And so over here, when I had throughout the course of those 20 or so videos I made last week, they would have all showed up here on the main opening screen for Resolve. So one of the things I learned is that we can make folders on here, add or get rid of folders or view folders in many different ways. Another super powerful thing that we can do here is that we can save folders over the network or onto the cloud as well. Right, currently they're just saved locally because it's on my laptop, and there's a very good intranet here in my house that's hardwired in. And anyway, moving on. So let's go over here to MGD 2085. That's the name of this course. I figured that was a pretty good name for calling things. And let's go over to section. What did I open up? Edit page modes. Let's try that and see if it. Nope, that wasn't it. Was it section 8? Yes, it was section 8. So when something comes up here, maybe it wasn't that either. Cut page, maybe? Ah, this was the one I was looking for because it looked terrible. Uh, and you come in here, it's like, oh my God, oh my God. Premiere Pro answers this. It means that you've moved the files that you used. Here, this was just one of uh, the classes that we kind of went through. And if you go over here to the timeline, or excuse me, the media pool, it doesn't really give you the thing until you see it here in either the cut page or the edit page. Once you go to either the edit or the cut pages up here, and it wants you to seek out this chain link, and it wants you to relink the media. And there's a couple ways you can do that. You can do that with a disk search, and it'll take, I don't know, however big your hard drive is. My standard drive that this is on my laptop is 4 terabytes. So it's probably best that we locate this by hand. So I happen to know where everything lives. And so where could it live? It could live down here in a folder actually labeled the class. Whoops, where did it go? Let's go back to folder labeled for class. And over here to DaVinci Resolve and Training. I'm pretty sure that's where everything lives. But I could back off one and just say, here's the whole thing of what's happened in the last couple weeks. Okay? So let's highlight that, say select folder, and it's going to go through here, and bam, it was that fast for it to go through that one little folder, which really wasn't that little, and then find everything that we needed to use in the upcoming couple of things I want to show you. So let's go back over to our page now that we've solved our, oh my God, where did things go, panic mode here. And everything we wanted to know about the media tab, we pretty much already talked about, except for one thing that I found that I just absolutely loved. So when I do all these videos with you guys, Open Broadcast Software likes to stick them somewhere when you're done. It's called the output. And we go and we tell it that we want this to be done in an MP4 format so that it comes back in here very easily. And that all those things gather there. So one of the cool things that we can do up here, let's go over here and get into the media pool. Sorry about that. This is my desktop. And somewhere on my desktop should be users, me, desktop. Now throughout the desktop, somewhere in here is one labeled OBS videos. Let's click on that. And those are our 2 videos here. So let's add this OBS videos down here in our master file. Okay. And also, let's make a clone of our OBS videos. Okay, so we come up here and we hit our clone tool. What this is going to do is this is going to make a link to this, and then we're going to stick it up here on top where I initially started looking for it, which was on the desktop. So to make a clone, we come down here, OBS videos, clone tool. So you notice that this is highlighted, clone tool. Let's start a job. Slide the OBS videos over here, just grab it and move it. Now where do we want it to go? We want it to go up here, down on the bottom, and we say clone. So now when we close all this stuff up, now I'm a little embarrassed. Desktop. Maybe I have to go back and come back in. Go back out and come back in. That's probably what needs to happen here. Here we go. It did. So our master shows our OBS videos. So when we get ready to do any editing in the future in this, it will be there. And we click on that. As we make them, they will come up on here. So the one that's pending right now because I'm talking to you, boom, there we have it. So that was a nice thing. And let's come out of this and go back to the media files. There's all of our episodes. Very nice. Okay, very good. So let's have a look and see what's next on our hit parade of little things to check off our list. So that was our things we wanted to know about the media tab. We did the clone tool, basic video editing. We've done that. Timeline options. They're just talking about the stuff down there in the editing tab. Using the effects library, we did that a lot. Clip audio equalizer. We have a whole Fairlight section that's going to be coming up, so we'll save that for then. Color tab, we did the color pretty thoroughly just for color correction. Like I said, we have a whole thing coming up on color grading and that, so we'll see that there. Tracking movement, covered that. Sizes and types, covered that. How to install and use audio virtual effects plugins. That's a good one. All right, so one of the things that's important here to know is our workflow here at the bottom. We have our media pool, we have our cut page. This starts showing up in version 17. Have our edit page, which is something that's been along here since the very beginning. Fusion, but right now in the color page, as it's kind of things that happen in order as we go down the line. And so the last thing it wants us to have a look at is the Fusion page and how we get things into the Fusion page. Now, I'm not so sure. Okay. So here we are. We are in the Fairlight page here, and we've come to Effects and down to Audio Effects. There's a line of Fairlight effects that this guy comes with. Very exhaustive. A long, long way away from 14. When it first came out, as I found out when I was watching this, it didn't come with anything. So all this can be just like any other effect. You can just drag it and drop it right here on your audio stuff, and then bring it in through an input or through here under the tracks, the effects file. So if you needed something to come on to audio one, once you grabbed it, for example, let's do that real quick. Let's find something we could do here. Let's grab some for audio too, since that looks like it's reverb. Audio 2 dropped on. There's a lot that you can do with a reverb thing. Let's get out of that. Go over here to Audio 2 under Effects, and then we can come down to Reverb and bring it up that way too. But we can do that because we grabbed it and redropped it on, and then make whatever changes you want from here. Again, Fairlight coming up next week. The next important thing to hear is the BST sound effects. Now, these are effects that I have downloaded for Premiere Pro on a PC. And these are, again, just stuff that we can drop on here. This was a pretty good one. It just cleans up the sound here, real easy to use. But the point of this is to say, yes, we did download this, and it was a really easy install here. We simply just come up to DaVinci Resolve, down to Preferences, click on System, over here to Audio Plugins, right? And it'll land, when you install it, it'll land on one of these 3 files. And these files will be made automatically by the installer, obviously. You don't have to jump through any huge hoops or nothing. So, but you do need to make sure that they're checked and enabled, okay? Otherwise, you won't see them come up here in this page, Audio Effects, VST Effects. Okay, so let's go back to this and back over to here to see what's next on our to-do list. Where to open video preview now. Recorded audio voiceover. Going to be doing that next week. Basics of exporting videos. Yet another great nugget learned here. I'll go over just the exporting of the videos since we really didn't cover that all that much. It's in our line of things to do, our workflow. Right after Fairlight is the deliver, aka render. So here is a list of, let me do something right here real quick. Let me delete this because we're going to make a new one right now that I want to share with you guys because I've learned some interesting things. First off, uh, formatting out using QuickTime as a format as opposed to any of this other stuff seems to work pretty good. The bottom line is though is to use an MP4, okay? Because that works on everything. I've never seen Mac, PC, Linux, any of that stuff ever reject an MP4 video. The codec H.264, pretty standard for doing anything except when you start getting into the ProRes files and RAW, and then you're an H.265, and that's a whole nother can of worms. Something I've experimented with and learned about yesterday is, and only because I have the horsepower to do this, is 3840 by 2160. That's Ultra HD. Why am I doing that from here on out? Starting today, as a matter of fact. All these files that I bring in on my computers, when you see the resolution, and when I bring the footage in from my two cameras, which are 4K cameras, will be done in this format. Why? Because when I upload them to YouTube, the clarity is just gone. It's very hard to read. Frame rate, we're going to stick with 25 here. That's what they were brought in at. He was talking about frame rates and how to quickly change frame rates from whatever you're using to 60, and you can do that by messing around with your project files, wherever that got to. Project manager, project settings. Excuse me. Close that. Project settings. Come down here under file, project settings. Now, a lot of stuff can be changed from here. As I was brought in by mind, it didn't like to change that very much, and that's fine. So we're going to leave that there. All this other stuff here is if you have a weaker computer that doesn't have a video card, which is another very important thing for this computer. Any PCs or Macs for that matter that have a powerful video card, you can tell it to use that card. You come back up here to preference once again. Where are we at? Media storage decoding options. Okay, decoding options. Let's try memory and GPU. GPU is asking you where you want to, how you want to use it. So if you'll notice on mine, you'll see this, these big video cards down on here, Raytheon Graphics. That guy's a 24 gig video card, and then another native 12 gigabyte cache on my main GPU display card. I have these both being used, and I've let everything is maxed. So when I render something, it gets rendered in a hurry. Anyway, so we're back over here, and this is how I want it to come up each and every time. So the last 20 videos I was going through, I'm going to have to change my format, change the encoders. Yeah, it was a mess. So in watching the little video, this has been around since the dawn of time with this software. Create a new preset. Okay, so we have all of the settings the way we like it. Let's come over here and we'll just call this school. Whoops. As usual, I can't type. Really? Sorry, guys. think I've just lost my little light down here. And I have. Okay, we'll fix that in a minute. All right, so come back over here to OK, click on that. So you'll notice now that this turns up. So every time that I go in here and it comes up as something else, whatever, I don't have to go around and mess with any preset settings anymore. I just click on school. I come down here to add to render queue, give it a file, which it took from the original thing that I called this when I was starting a project. Click on save. What else? Oh, here's what I forgot. No, I didn't forget that this was already going to be saved on my desktop in the videos that are specifically involved with this class. So here's the file name, and here's immediately where it went. Here's where it goes over here. You hit render all, it winds up in that file, and we'll come back over here on this side and ready for me to rename that file if I haven't already, and then start assembling the video. Okay, talking too much here. Let's move on to the next thing on the list, if there is anything. Preview window, hard. Basics of exporting. Custom render presets, we just covered that. And the one-click stabilization, we just did that the other day in the color tab. And that's going to be it for section 2. So we did gloss over quite a bit of stuff, but those are the things that really jumped out at me that I thought was going to be very handy down the road. And like I said, I already, as you saw, implemented some of them. All right, so coming up, section 3. Thank you. All right, good morning and welcome back to the Complete Video Production Series, Week 4. And we're still talking about OBS and DaVinci working together. We are today now on section 3, which is still on kind of the resolve side of things. Section 4 will move into the OBS side of things. And there are some things on the list here which are, the name of the list is section 3, how to, specific tasks and effects in DaVinci Resolve. Yeah, there's some cool stuff in here and we're going to do it. And one of the things I like about that is that even though we know how to do almost all this stuff already, there was a couple of cute little tweaks that engage our imagination a little bit and shows the things that we've learned in a more creative light. And maybe would spark, complete the mental circuit for me later. It's like, hey, I've seen that before and I know how to apply that in this situation. So we're going to start off here with just kind of going down the list of a few things and then pick out a couple of things that we're going to do. And that's what I'm going to do here for the rest of the day. It's a pretty long list, so I'm just going to pick out a few cool things to do and talk about the rest. First thing on the list is installing DaVinci Resolve on Linux Mint. I don't have any use for that. I would never run Linux. I just don't have the skill sets for that. So I'm going to leave that for somebody else that's smarter than me. The next thing is on the list that I am going to engage with you is how to set the frames per second in Resolve to 60. And then I'm also going to show you guys over how to set the outgoing frames per second on OBS to 60 so that we're getting some nice smooth footage on the way in. So why I'm doing that is because here's some things I've learned that when I transfer this stuff over to YouTube, the video that comes out on that side has been compressed again by YouTube. And so it's making my end product that you get to see kind of funny and illegible. I mean, you really had a strain to see it. And I was looking at it on some really high-end monitors. So all my new stuff comes at Ultra HD at 3840 by 2160 in 60 frames a second. My computers have the horsepower to do that, and my internet connection is a 4 gigabit a second fiber connection here in Loveland that I pay through the nose for, so I may as well use it, and hopefully you guys get a higher quality end outcome. Doesn't cost me anything but a little bit of time, in which case I can just go step away and make myself a cup of coffee while it's rendering. or whatever needs to be done. It's pretty fast. So that was the one thing. So we're going to do 60 frames a second in both OBS and DaVinci. The next thing down was there's a couple of things that they want to do. How to edit hotkeys and the 10 most useful hotkeys. I think some of these that he put in this class might be YouTube episodes, but as long as we have this, I'm not terribly worried about hotkeys. And if this is starting to look a little clearer to you today, so I did I replaced the cameras on here like I told you about with 4K cameras. I have two of them, both matching cameras. But I did a fixed focus on this one rather than a letting it make its own mind up. I mean, it's not going anywhere. Why not do a fixed focus? So I think you can read things a little bit better. Certainly, it's a nice, clean. It's a little bit cleaner image. And I also did that with the stuff for me. That's a fixed image too. Again, I'm not going to be moving terribly far away. I think within about a foot or so, it stays pretty well. So back over here to that. So we're not going to do the hotkey stuff. It's just we don't need that. There's a fast forward effect that basically was keying out the black over an effect that was brought in over some a real-time alteration that we did. We did that pretty ad nauseum last week with the timing, and that thing. It's cool in the fact that you can just put the little video effect on the top in the bottom one's video one, put it in the video two thing on top of the footage that you're speeding up, and it kind of gives it the little scan lines through. I couldn't find that effect and didn't want to spend a bunch of time looking for it. So that was cool, but again, it was a pretty a basic thing here. The colored box, we did that. That's just an effects that's labeled as solid, and I'll show you that. Fast and easy fades for video and audio. We've been to that party too, where we were just grabbing the corners of the video and the audio, and you just fold it in a little bit to the whatever timing you want, and then you can adjust how it enters and exits. Yeah, nice and quick. I don't know that that's any quicker than hitting the transition button down here. I mean, these three buttons are literally, put the effect in, put a different effect in, or whatever you want to make that specialized to, or take the effect out. So I don't know. That one doesn't really apply, but we'll have a look at it anyway. So where are we at? Make video show inside of text title. Okay, here this was kind of weirdly worded. Make video show. What they meant was so your black screen with lettering on it is showing first, and then where the lettering is, the video shows through that. And we've already done that. That's just a matter of putting your video on top of your text, and then going to your the composition on that under the inspector and saying multiply. I mean, it's a three-step process, very easy. We could look at that real quick. And here's the one that I was kind of teasing the other day, the Star Wars thing. I'm going to go ahead and do that just because it was kind of fun, and I downloaded some hyperspace footage off of Envato to do that with, and I did license that. I don't know if that matters to you, but those licenses are available. And that sounds like quite enough to do for the first, but maybe two or three of these for this section here. There's quite a few neat little do-it projects here that'll be fun. All right, so that's my section 3 intro. I'll be back with talking about feet per second here in just a little bit. All right. See you in a second. Okay, so our first little to-do thing in the to-do list here is to select 60 frames a second in DaVinci Resolve. But the important thing to understand here is that if you're not inputting 60 frames a second, this is kind of a waste of time. And if you try to output 60 frames a second in DaVinci Resolve without inputting it, you're going to have a bunch of just copies of frames injected into the stream here, and it's going to do nothing for smoothness or nothing for the ability to catch action more. That's one of the other nice things about that. And it does dim your lighting a little bit too. So, I mean, it's just like shutter speed for as far as that goes. Um, so the first thing we need to talk about here is let's put in 60 frames a second from OBS. And I just happen to have a spare copy of OBS to look at here. Let me move my face over here so we can see things a little bit better. So down here in settings on this is our main screen over here. These are all my scenes that we have here just as a quick explanation. Each one of these is a different thing where it's just me on there, or it's me in the Udemy screen, or it's me in the computer, or it's me in the computer and the monitor or and the keyboard, or just the computer. You get the idea here. The sources apply to each one of these scenes. Like for example, on the speed editor down here, which it is now, what do we want to see? We want to see the camera that's pointing down, and we want to hear the good microphone. Okay, so the point of this little thing here is to go here and look at the settings tab, and that brings up this. And there wasn't too much to really do here to get started with this guy. It comes out of the box pretty well ready to go. And as I've said in the past, this is mostly about this OBS software takes 10 minutes to get set up if you have any computer knowledge whatsoever. But you could spend a lifetime refining this, and I've got the more I get along with this, the more I like it, especially because it's free. But anyway, back to what I was saying here. So general settings here at the top. The next important setting was the output, and so we're going into a specific folder here on my desktop, which is also again tied up with my which is tied up with DaVinci in the files in its, sorry, I'm having a little bit of aphasia here this morning, I guess. It's tied in with this folder where all the videos get sent to are tied in with the files on the media pool in DaVinci. So whenever I'm done with something, immediately it just updates, and there we are. I mean, it's really slick. We're shooting an MP4, high quality, medium file size. Yeah, that works just fine. Like I said, the size of the files don't really matter all that much to me. And we'll talk about that in a little bit here. So let's come down here to video, and we want to come over here and make sure, look on that, and make sure that we're on 60. Now, I've already changed this in the other instance of OBS that I'm actually recording on. So from here on, everything else will be recorded in 3840 by 2160 and 60 frames a second, and processed through the rendering process through DaVinci that way as well. And we will see if that improves my quality that YouTube has been smashing down, because some of my YouTubes, I've noticed that unless you play them on a really good monitor, they are not all that fine. They're hard to read, and they're kind of, for being such a visual thing, these should be as high quality as possible and easy to watch. Okay, so let's jump out of here and jump back into, let's get all the way out of here, get this out of the background. Okay, so we're here in the opening page of DaVinci Resolve 18, and we're going to start a new project here, because that's the only way we can get this set to the right thing. So we can come up here, let's just say 60 FPS, just to remind me what it is here, and we'll say create. So here, before we do anything, before we bring in any clips, before we touch the media pool, before we do anything, we've got to come up here to File and down to Project Settings, and then over to Timeline Frame Rate. I don't know why it was set in 24 frames a second. That's a European setting. Most of the stuff I do personally is at the 29.97 thing. But just for argument's sake, and just because we can, let's set it to 60. And that will control how things come in and how things go out. Now, most of the stuff that I will be bringing in to do our editing will already be at 60 frames a second, so it should mash up really nice and really get a good use of that. Video format 1080p by 1060. Yep, that's what it's going to go out as. Yeah, that looks good. Bit depth 10. Yeah, we love the fact that we got such strong computers to be able to do such nice stuff. Okay, and I think that's going to be all that we need to do for that. Let's be sure to save that since we don't want to mess around with that. And let's come over here up to our desktop and bring in, I don't know why that's not bringing in what we want here. Let's come over here and do this. Users, do it the hard way. Siege, program files, desktop. Now that has the couple of things that I'd like to bring in down here. So we're in the media pool. Let's see if it asks us to change now that we know that this is a 60 frames a second piece of footage, and so is this, and this should be as well. So let's bring this in. Let's not change that. It doesn't even give us the frame rate when we can bring that in. Let's not change that. Make sure that we can back up here. File, project settings. Oops, excuse me. Cancel. File, project settings. Yep, still at 60 frames a second. Good. And this little bit of test footage should have been 60 frames a second too. That was one of the things I was experimenting with yesterday. Okay, let's select these clips and make ourselves a new timeline. So we can do that. Create new timeline using selected clips. Timeline 1, I'm just going to do the same thing, call it 60 FPS. Hit create, come over here to edit. And there we are. There's our first. I'm going to use this later just to do the, in fact, I'm going to use this in a minute to do our Star Wars title work on. Okay, so the important part of this thing here, or the hard part of this is now done. We have all this footage we know is 60 frames a second, and we know that all of the stuff that we bring in from here on out will be 60 frames a second. Let's go over here to delivery and see what happens. So, oh, looky there. We are at 60 frames a second. Let's hit our school icon, and it's still at 60 frames a second. So this is our customized icon like we showed you in the last section here, and at this big, huge Ultra HD format, and everything is just ready to go. The only thing we have to do is locate desktop, is where it's going, save that, and then name it 60 frames a second. Excuse me. And we are cooking with gas to send this over here to the render queue. Boom, 60 frames a second, boys and girls. And we'll try that out a little bit later on, and when I do the editing to put all the stuff in together, this entire class I'm going to edit into one entry for YouTube, so that'll make it a little faster and easier to get through. Okay, so let's go back up here to this, and let's come up here and add a track. So now we have a video 2 track somewhere. Come down here and make a little space. Now you'll note that there's no audio track to be messing around with. I actually took that out earlier just because it's a pain in the ass to deal with when there's nothing necessary. So over to effects, basic scroll title. We're going to bring that down here. Okay. And highlight that. Come over here to the inspector and say Star Wars title. Star Wars is all caps, right? S-T-A-R-A-R-S. title. And so the first thing we're going to want to do with that is let's highlight it, boom, and then put everything in the center because that's how it was in the thing. And let's note that that moves along pretty nicely. All right, so let's find a font that seems to be a Star Wars kind of font, or somewhat close to a Star Wars kind of font. You know what I think? I think Impact's going to be our closest one for that for now. Impact regular. Let's bring our size up a little bit. Not too much. It's kind of like it was in the movie. And let's find us a nice yellow. A nice Star Wars yellow. All right. So the next thing we want to do is to come over here to settings. Come down to transform. Are you with me here so far, everybody? Come down to transform, and let's go over to the pitch setting. Okay. First off, let's not change anything until we're back at the beginning because we don't want to accidentally set a keyframe. I don't think it will. There we go. One. Okay, this is rendered together pretty nicely too. So I'm going to go ahead and play this for you on the full screen. And let's check it out. Kind of fun. A little bit different. And the full screen brought to you by, once again, our speed editor, as known by. Red button here, handily marked full view. Let me come over here to give you a better feel for that. Marked full view. There we go. Back and forth. That's one of my favorite keys. My eyes aren't as good as they used to be, and it's nice to be able to look at a big monitor and see everything that's going on. Okay, so I'm going to leave it here with you guys for now and get ready to go into the next set of little tasks here to do. That was fun. Thanks. All right. Excuse me. Welcome back to Section 3, Part 2. I've been down through the list of here, and I've got a couple of cute little things in mind for you, but unfortunately, with all the cute things that he did here and the kind of creative things, he didn't give us any resources to go do that, and I'm not in the mood to go chase loose footage through Udemy or somebody like that. That would take hours and hours to get what he's done in here. So I thought I'd do a couple of examples of what I can do with what I've got, and then just talk through some of the other stuff, and then some of the other stuff that's really convenient, or excuse me, really inconvenient, or that he made difficult, which he did a couple of them. That was even beyond me to deal with. I'm just going to have to pick up at another later date. A good example of that one was he did some text that was interwoven. Yes, put text behind video objects, and that would be the first interesting thing to try and talk to you about, because there was some tricky stuff there. Is what he did was he had some title text, I just said title, and then it was between, and then he had a picture of a beach with some trees in front of it, and there was one main tree in the middle, then the text was behind that tree, and then there were some trees behind it so that you could see the text, but it looked like the text was from behind. And it was kind of clever how he did it. He had two of the same clips. The first one with sound and everything on video track 1, the text on video track 2, and then the identical copy without the sound of the initial video track 1 text on video on track 3, and he'd gone into the color page and keyed out one of the tree trunks that the text was hiding behind using let me just bring it up here real quick. Using the qualifier, he used the hue and keyed it out, and then went over and highlighted it, and then went back after he got it highlighted and pretty well keyed out with the color. He was able to go in with the power window and get it the rest of the way out with that, and turned it gamma here. And I'm going to show you guys something along those lines here like that in just a second. But whoops, let me get my face out of there. Sorry. So here he was able, he started it with the qualifier, and that was just a matter of using the eyedropper and using that to color key out the trunk, and then come down here to the excuse me. Well, my layout's a little different from him. Maybe I'm not getting it right. But anyway, so he goes back over to this, and once he had his tree trunk keyed out, he was able to use the curve and get it out of there. The rest of it just by painting it out. And then he came up here, and again, I'll show you all that here in just a second. So let me bump this out of the way here, and let's go down some of the rest of the list. I thought that was the most interesting one. There was another one down here where you made a custom. Where'd we go here? This was something that I would never use, the clone mirror and world thing. That was really cheesy. How to make a boomerang style. That was kind of cute. I'll talk about that in a second. Make a custom shape layer mask. And that was basically bringing in a picture that was keyed out in Photoshop. That just had a shape in the white on it that you bring in, and you introduce it in over to the color side of things. Excuse me, I'm just having a little trouble talking today. And then again, that's something I'm going to show you here in just a second. So maybe we should just stop talking and get after it here. So a couple of things to show you. First, let's go back over to the edit page. So I have this little guy here, basic title. It's just really, really basic. It is just exactly that. There's no animation to it. There's nothing to it other than this text here, all done in black and white. So what we're going to do is we're going to slide it under here, and then we're going to come up here and mess around with it a little bit in the inspector. Come back over to here and see its zoom size. You see the zoom here where it's got it's got a keyframe. So let's start our keyframe here. Okay, and make sure that our zoom is all the way back down. Whoops, excuse me. Control Z, make sure our zoom is all the way down. Slow as it'll go. Initial keyframe, click. Did we get our keyframe? And we sure did. Okay. And then let's move it over here to the end. Okay, so all right. And then move our zoom up. Here we go. Move our zoom up for the last keyframe. Okay. And let's leave it right there. Maybe we can come over here and find a better there, that's pretty good. Maybe we can bold that up or not. Break them apart a little bit. Okay, so how we did this here is we got first off, the text is underneath. It's on video track 1. And up here on video track 2, we came up here to the composite. here on that, which is under the inspector again of our video, where all the goodies here, transform, cropping, composite, tells it where we want it to be. So if this was normal and we came there, we wouldn't be seeing anything. It would just be the topmost track being the most prevalent tracks. But when we come down here, a couple of things happen. We come down here and we say multiply. There it is. And then we come back to the beginning. And we click on the full view. Okay, so we're over here to section 19. And let me just pull that up. Maybe let's try this here real quick. X. And then we're going to go back to full view. And then we're going to say control, play around. There we go. Okay, so we're over here to section 19. And so it'll smooth out in a second as soon as it gets this. So we're over here to section 19. Anyway, that's how you do that. That's the one side of things. Section 19. Shouldn't be yelling over this. So we can see that was the one side of things. Now we're going to try here a different side of things here. So we're just going to totally get rid of this. Boom. See you later. We're going to bring this back down here. And we're going to bring this guy on top. Okay, this was about doing a key, not necessarily a key, but well, let's just do it. Let's highlight this. Let's go over here to the color correction page. And now you see we have me, and we have this bit of stars that we used on the Star Wars title track thing. So here's what we're talking about. When we want to add things here, we got to call it an alpha output. So underneath of our node for this guy, it's a simple thing. We say add alpha output. And you see that the little blue alpha output symbol appeared down here, and that there's a matching blue alpha output thing there. So what we got to do is we got to bring our mouse over, hold our mouse button down, and connect them just like you were completing a circuit, which you, for all intents and purposes, just did. So let's go back over here. And we have this. So we're going to come down to the composite. Now, don't be confused. We're still in the inspector, but because this is highlighted, we're talking about this composite on this one, not the composite that was on me. So let's call this composite add. And okay, so over here. And that's not working out hopefully as well as I'd liked it for. All right, I'm going to pause for a second and fix that. Okay, there we go. I'm an idiot. I just had them reversed. So the stars go on the bottom. I've used the add. It's been keyed out. Remember over here we keyed it out. Let's try that again. Jink. And alpha. Okay, back to here. Back to here. Okay, so let's bring our opacity down a little bit, and now we have our 2010 moment here. Let's say I'm going to turn the sound down on this too. You don't want to be listening to me blather on. Let's get rid of the inspector. Chink. And control / excuse me, alt /. So here we are moving along. Let's see it on the big screen. There we go. There is our 2001 moment. our monkey touches monolith kind of moment there. But anyway, that's just another thing that basically covers a lot of the stuff there that he was showing us here, and something that I could easily get the resources to do. All right, let's jump out of this and let's go down the list here and see if there's anything worth talking about. Green screen and chroma keying. We did that with some mild success on last week. The style loop was kind of cool. He had a little bird that was taking a drink out of its bird feeder, and it put its head down to excuse me. He for this over here, he had the little bird that put its head down and take a drink. And then it was very clever what he did, but very labor intensive. He uh, put that into two clips. Here's the bird. Clip number two, the bird brings its head back up. First clip, bird puts its head down. A second clip, the bird brings its head back up. So he made some copies of that and changed the time on it. The first clip a positive time, the second clip a negative time, so it was running backwards. So he had that zoop, 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 zoop kind of thing, and I don't know, that was kind of cool. Pretty basic stuff, but it was nice to see because that gives us an idea of what we can do with the time thing if you're really willing to kind of make your own effects, which I think is always a good idea. As much as I like templates and things like that, at the end of the day, doing some of your own work in After Effects. I have that class now. Uh, Having the templates gives us something to shoot for, but having the ability to do it yourself improves our way of thinking. Okay, so what else did he talk about? He talked about FX, adding, and specifically in this case, a camera shake. That kind of gives the thing add to it. But we already know how to do FX and how to add those. You just grab them. I guess we could do one real quick if you want to. Why not? So FX, open FX. This is where all the blurs were and stuff like that. Let's get rid of this. Let's turn our composite back to normal. Maybe let's come over here and make a break in it. Or come over here to the end of the thing. Dink. Okay, so I'm going to add an effect of just, maybe we could screw around with a couple of effects. Grid. Film damage. Cool. Playback. Don't ever forget about playback. To render queue, render cache, it's got to be smart. That way, when we do that, because every time we add an effect or some text or something like that, it adds work for the computer to do, and it will target its efforts. I like that. That's very interesting. I will use that. Let's go over here and say Control Z and get out of that. What else could we do? Motion blur, smear, stylize, camera. I don't see camera shake in here. But again, under the open effects thing, this is all stuff that you can add, and in most cases they're free too. Color palette, invert, deposit, color stabilizer. That's interesting. I wonder what that does. Let's come back to the beginning. Are we stabilized now? Inspector, effects, color stabilizer, selected area. Let's take that out. That looks like that needs some further investigation. Lens blurs, we've already done all that. Binoculars. That's cool. That's funny. Very, very 80s to that. Okay, what are we going to see today? Spying in on our kill that kill the binoculars. Huh. I love the fact you can come down through all these guys and just see this is the mosaic blur. This was actually one of the as we come back over here and look, this was one of the uh, things to do. They wanted you to do some kind of Mario uh, effect, kind of a 8-bit kind of changeling thing. I don't particularly care for that kind of a thing. I think it's cheesy, and I prefer a more modern look whenever I get the chance to. Here's the last. Here's the last. I'm going to talk about all this. I think frozen time speech with green screen. So what this means is this guy that was walking and he was holding a big clock, walked in front of a green screen and said a few lines, and then later that was keyed in front of a bunch of cattle, and then they froze the screen behind him, but they had the green guy on the green screen who was still talking, even though the what was animated onto the green screen was stopped and frozen, and they changed the colors on it where it was, they were all mooing and having fun, and then they drew all the colors out of it and froze it like they were stopped in time. It was kind of a neat idea. Not something worth recreating, I don't think. The custom shape layer, I don't know if I talked about that a little bit. That was a thing out of Photoshop. It was basically alphaed in like we did the stars uh, and the title layer over that. That's a 1001 thing. And never forget, anytime there's a diamond next to something and we get a chance to control something and add 3 or 4 movements into a single thing, can do something as take a simple photograph, a still image, and zoom out and come off to the side, for example, gives that still image some life. I love keyframing things. It's just a lot of great fun. Okay, so coming up next here is section 4, and we're finally going to get to the OBS stuff. Whew. Get through this and trying to find some new stuff for you guys to listen to and for me to talk about is it's not always easy. And I'm a little disappointed that he didn't give us the resources to go do that. Again, these are some old videos he may have at one time, and I get the feeling that a lot of these here in section 3 were old YouTube videos. So that said, here in my, let's look here in my stuff. So we go down here under DaVinci tips, and you see, let me give you the whole screen here. DaVinci tips. It's actually in my bookmarks page here. I scour every time I come across something in YouTube that I think is cool or is going to be handy later. I save it and put it in here. And just because I don't necessarily memorize everything, and I won't necessarily watch every one of these here, but for sure, I've watched them at least once. And if I do, if I think that they're worth working in, then then they're definitely worth working in. At any rate, that's all for now. Section 4 coming up, and we're going to be getting into OBS, and it's going to start with a narration of everything I have done to date, which includes a lot of the new tips that they're giving us in Section 4. All right, thanks a lot, and we'll see you in a little while. Oh, there you are. Okay, week 4, continuing on with OBS and DaVinci Resolve, and the class that goes with that. Like I've said before, this class is a little old. It was done in 2015, and things have only gotten better. So there's some things to be said here in section 14, which deals with primarily OBS. There's some other stuff where we start to see it fold in with DaVinci Resolve. But since that time, their partnership has only gotten stronger. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of read off the list for you that we have over here, and then I'm going to go through my setup how I've got it and what I've learned in the last few weeks of doing this. I think I've got a pretty good workflow going on. And so based on that, we'll see how it looks and see what you guys think about that. Okay. So they do a beginner's guide here. We've already seen that here in the first week. Pretty much the same thing. Uh, so he's doing some recordings of games, which also explains why he increased his frame rate to 60. Because if you're doing games and there's a lot of action involved with that, so it's just like taking pictures of a football game. The faster your shutter speed, the more you're going to stop the action. Such is true with frame rate as well. OBS guide for beginners. Components of the interface, that's easy. I'll show that to you. Transitions worked out to be a very cool thing. But it also made me realize that I could place my OBS on I'm using a 2-screen setup. So I've got all my work that you see on this screen here. Whatever you see in the background over on here on this side is actually on another side. So I have an entire screen on the following side to manage my OBS work with. Okay, moving along. So transitions. Okay, we'll talk about that when we get there. Changing format on recorded clips. That was kind of cool. I'll show you that. Customize recording output. Yeah, okay. And then once we get down to 53, 54, 55, all this stuff starts to fold in nicely with DaVinci, and I'll describe that as we go. Recording multiple separate audio tracks. Maybe that's handy for somebody that's into gaming or something like that, or that if you're narrating a movie or something along those lines, that you have the sound of a movie or the sound plus the sound of your voice. Might not be a bad idea to learn how to do that. There's a lookup table filter setup. That's something that I would never do. When I have the best color grading and color correction software known to man, all of this stuff, when I record in OBS, it comes down in several little sections. Let me just show you this real quick. So this is that magic file where it says OBS video that lives on my desktop. So this is the one that's in process now, and you see how I label these. I've talked about this in the past. And so where was I? Yeah, that's kind of a handy thing. I don't mess around with the lookup tables. And I'll show you how everything's set up, how to set the recording for 60 frames per second. We already talked about that. This is a super important thing, and we're already talked about that a little bit. I think we've got that sorted out pretty well. And then recording web browsers, Chrome, Firefox. Chrome is the only one I ever mess with, so we'll look at that real quickly. And then recording a screenshot presentation with Impress or PowerPoint. Okay. I don't see many doing that ever, but it's a skill that's probably not ever too bad to know how to do. So let's just get into it here and come in, get this out of the way, and move my face up here. You'll note, by the way, that behind me is the OBS screen. I have two instances of this open right now, so I'm just going to put my face up here for now as we go through all the stuff over on this side. So let's just talk about, we'll go through and we'll talk about where everything is and what everything means here. The usual tabs across the top: File, Edit, View, Docs. Docs are these little guys down here. If you're not using them, you can take them out and move them somewhere else. All this is customly arrangeable. Some people happen to like their stuff up here. If you can take, for example, and move, what would be a good thought to? Scene transitions. If you want to get that out of the way, you can move that up here. I liked it fine where it was, so I'm going to put it back down here and let that fold back in. I think it comes stock with a pretty good setup. When I'm looking at mine, I have all this stuff kind of over on this side because as I click through these here, for example, as you're seeing, these are the scene changes, and each one of these scenes has a different set of sources or equipment attached to it. For example, when it's a picture of me, um, which doesn't have a picture of me up through the camera, it's just a picture of me that I just set in place through something we'll talk about in a second. But I can move. Uh, I can come over here and unlock mine and move the picture of me around a little bit, I think. Maybe not while we're recording. Anyway, doesn't matter. So as we go through here, each one of these scenes, as we click through it, you can see that it is kind of a transition. Okay? It's not showing anything with the cameras in it. It'll only let me have 2 cameras at a time, and I'm already using both of those cameras over on my instance of OBS that I'm making this video with now. So speaking of transitions, we come over here to this side. We can choose what kind of transition, whether it's just a straight old rough cut or if it's a fade. I happen to like the fade. And then how long does that fade last? I chose 600 milliseconds because it's smooth but kind of snappy. So when I go from this to this, for example, I don't know if you're getting to see any of that or not. Let me bring up the computer only. Yes, here we go. As we go through the scenes here, that would be me. Ordinarily, my face would be up here, but see how nice that just changes? Again, you won't be able to see anything other than that stuff. Okay, so that's the transitions about that, and that's not something that we really talked about in the beginning here. So let's make a scene real quick. Haha. We'll call this. We'll come down here and we'll click on plus underneath the screens. And I'm going to go back to the computer only now and see where it says scene 2. We'll just call this test for now. Come on. Let's call this test for now. Say OK. Now you'll notice down here I clicked on plus. I clicked on plus. Came up. We made a scene called test. We said OK. Here we have test down here. So what we do next with test, that's our new scene, just like we have a speed editor. I'm sorry about the confusion back and forth between things. With 2 instances of the Hall of Mirrors kind of program, it's a little confusing, so bear with me. So once we're in the test scene here, we can come over here to the sources and assign whatever we want to it, pretty much that you can imagine. So starting from the top on down. So if we had something running in the background like a game, this is a special thing that we can add here too. Click on that and create new. Once you say create new, it'll give you a bunch of options to what this pertains to and how they fit into your list. The next thing is audio input capture. Now that's an important one. As I, for example, right now do not have, I have a special microphone attached to this that I had to tell Windows that yes, this microphone is here. And then we're going to go through and correct its sound right now. As right now, I don't have anything correcting the sound on this with as far as compression goes or a gate or however you want to call that. But we'll do that in a little bit. The output capture. So if you got something that's making noise here, again, like we were talking about watching a movie or something like that, and you wanted to play a little bit of that in the background and have your voice over it where you can narrate and have everybody knowing where you're at, that's a cool thing. So here at browser, there's different settings for different browsers. I didn't see the point in Chrome of doing that because it just does it so well here. Chrome is another one of those things that happens to dovetail nicely with OBS. So I didn't mess with it, you know. It's not broken, why fix it? Color sources, I'm not to that yet. And if it becomes something that matters, I'll come back to that. But again, any kind of color correction is going to be done in DaVinci. So again, not too bothered with it. Display source. Now, that's a super important thing. Let's run through something where I said computer only. You'll note that it has both my Rode microphone in it, and you can see that's my Rode microphone's over here making noise. And then the display capture is what happens to be on this specific monitor at this point in time. So if I highlighted that, it's going to tell me that this is the primary monitor. Yes, there is a secondary monitor if we wanted to look at that. I think then you'll kind of see over here, this is the monitor that I was telling you about when you can see me and stuff like that on it. And there's I call that my Udemy face because that fits me in nicely when I've got the Udemy thing with all the class listings and stuff like that. I call this my OBS face because as you see it fits me in perfectly to the OBS whatnot. Me and the computer. So there's me and whatever's in the background there. Anyway, you get the idea on that. So we'll come back over here to the primary monitor, chink, and say okay, and we'll move on from there. The Rode Mini, there's some stuff to be talked about here. I think we can come over here and click on this and say properties, advanced audio properties. Filters, that's where we wanted to be. Let's add a couple of filters here. The first filter is going to be a noise suppression filter. And we can just leave it, call it noise suppression, no big deal. And so when we do the noise suppression on here, we can bring this down here. And this is how the guy that told me about this had it set up down here so that when you go back and you say this is good, okay, it looks like the good. If we look at this here, it looks like you guys can see it. So there's a low CPU usage, low quality, then a good quality, but a more CPU usage. So since we have such a beast of a machine, let's go with a good quality. Okay, let's close that. All right. And then let's go back to our filters over here again and put a gate on this, a sound gate. Up to filters, over here to add, just like we add everything else over here down in sources, we're going to add a filter. Kind of a running theme here. Noise gate. We'll just call it noise gate. What the heck? So this means the open threshold is where you start. So this won't start recording until it gets over 26 dB. Okay. The average where I like to see my stuff start recording at is -12. So that should be just fine. And then this closes the microphone after something drops below 32. The attack time and the hold time, this is more aimed at something at an instrument. So if you had, for example, like a snare drum, you could slow the attack time and increase the release time, and you get a harder pop out of it. And so when you slow the attack time and increase the release time, your voice will sound a little bit smoother. Anyway, that's kind of the point of that, and that's worth having on there. So we're going to leave it there. Okay, I'm going to come over here on my side of things and see if it put it on there too, just for interest. Okay, and it didn't. So I'm going to pause for, no, it probably won't let me do that right now. So anyway, moving on here. So we've gotten the scenes down. We've talked about how all these little boxes work. We've talked about transitions. Let's talk about the settings, which we've talked about a little bit. So when I start recording with you guys and I'm making a video, we hit start recording. When we're done, we can also pause it. When we hit recording, we can pause it, and then we can unpause it and stop recording. So whenever you hear me say, okay, I'm going to pause it for just a second, that's what I'm doing. I probably don't have to say it, but if you see a weird jump, then you'll know why, and I don't have to mess with the edit. So a studio mode is for the transition stuff. So it has a um, preview. This is what's about to happen and what's happening. So if you wanted to go back and forth between the two, I mean, you could do a real nice thing, a fade or a cut or whatever you want to do. I personally don't care for it. I just like to come down here, and since I have everything on the two screens, and this part on my other screen is right here on the far corner, right next to this screen that I'm looking at. So it's not too much for me just to look my eyes down and change it. That happened to be that happens to be one of my little work hacks. It's working for me. I don't recommend, in fact, period, I don't recommend doing this with just one monitor. Even my laptop has an auxiliary monitor that I carry with me. It just, yeah, there's too much going on for all the editing stuff, especially and all the broadcasting stuff too. I'm not sure that I will even get into the streaming side of things because it's just something I've never done, nor would I try to do. I don't have a YouTube following and I don't have a teachership, so I don't know. We'll see what the timing's like for us to when we look at that. All right, so let me go over here real quick and look back at our list and see how we're doing. How to set a recording to 60 FPS. We already looked at that. Microphone check. I do enough recording where I know my microphone is set. If I do it, I just make a recording, a quick recording, and in that quick recording, and I make mistakes. Like if you look in the background right now on me for my check, okay, so we were messing around with the lighting today. I have no artificial light happening right now. I have everything that's coming is coming from this window over here behind me. The TV's turned off. My bed could be made a little nicer, but for the most part, this is part of my check. How does my background look? What's my lighting look like? So I've got kind of a little bit of an overdone Rembrandt shadow happening. And so when I go and I play this back, I'll look at all that stuff. And if I have to go and fix something, I will. But that doesn't mean I still don't make plenty of mistakes to get it done correctly. All right, so back to the list of things to do. The filter setup, color grading thing, like I said, we won't mess with that because we go back and forth between doing all these videos that I showed you guys earlier are all numbered and they just all go together like little puzzle pieces. And so let's look at the one last thing I think that's worth looking at here. And that's, we're going to come up to the settings here. You see this? All right, so some output settings that are important to be using with DaVinci, and we'll look at some audio settings as well as some video settings. Maybe talk about some hotkeys a little bit because that's not something I do, but maybe something worth thinking about in the future. And how the okay, let's just start with general here. As we go down here, the source snapping, not us. Projectors, not us. System tray, definitely want to be able to see that from time to time. Studio mode, don't mess with that. Yeah, we don't really care about anything on here. Streaming, we're not there yet, but just to cover this quickly enough, you can set whatever service you want to go to and pre-shoot it here. So if I choose YouTube, for example, then I can choose my server and log in and all the goodies that go with that. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to use that just yet, if at all. But like I said, maybe worth using. Output, super important here when we line things up with DaVinci. Like I explained earlier, where I have all of my videos go out in the MP4 format. because that's one of the nicest and easiest formats for playback, and no stutter stoppy for a playback from an MP4. And that this goes, all of my stuff goes to a folder that directly imports itself into DaVinci. So, remember in the media pool where we can bring in our own folders? Well, that's where this folder lives, is it's right there. And so every time I click stop recording on here, it appears in DaVinci. Very handy, very cool. The H.264 AMD encoder here, like I said, we're working with a pretty high-end computer, so running that is just, it doesn't notice the difference of the higher end stuff there at all. Gotta love a fast computer. If you're going to be in this business, uh, don't try and half-ass it. It's just not, it's never going to work out well, and it's going to create more troubles than it's worth. Okay, sample rates here and the channels. We can do everything up to a movie theater 7.1, 5.1. Personally, I am at the max I would ever have 2 microphones if I were interviewing or somebody or something like that. So we're going to leave it to stereo here. Global audio devices. Remember me telling you the one main thing that I have right now is that really nice Rode Desktop Mini. So that's here, and that's where this is the first thing that goes in, is you got to be able to talk to it. The rest of the stuff you can set up. I mean, you have all kinds of audio options here. Not something I'm going to have, I'm going to be messing with too much for myself. So where are we next? Push mute, all this other stuff down here. It looks like it's all hotkeyable something or other. So if I wanted to mute my camera's microphone, I wanted to mute my Rode Mini's microphone, or if I wanted to be able to key it like you would key like a ham radio or something like that. Yeah, okay. Maybe that's handy if you're having some kind of discussion, so you don't wind up talking over everybody. Okay, so here we are again. This isn't set to 60, but the other one is. This is back where we were changing our feet per second, right? That when we went over to DaVinci and we changed that there, we wanted to make sure that they matched. This is where you would do that. Also, too, that they come in, this is the blank aspect ratio that it comes in and the base resolution. It comes out of my side of DaVinci and 3840 by 2160. I might mess around with that and see, because it has the ability to do that. So might be worth trying, screwing around with. Who knows? Okay, hotkeys. The only hotkey I could ever think of using might be to assign all of my down here in my scenes, to maybe put a number in front of the scenes and say like maybe shift 1 for just me, or shift 2 for just my Udemy face, or something along those lines. I haven't quite figured all that out yet. But mostly I've been happy with the way everything is set up. I don't have to take my eyes off the camera to go here and change the scene. That's the key thing, I think. The advanced settings somewhere should allow us to change tracks. Oh, here's the file name formatting. Might be kind of handy to do that at some point. Right now, I have it set just as a date, but I change it instantly to my special code that gives me what week it is, what section we're on, and what skill we are in that section. Stream delay, that's if you got somebody cussing, you can blink them out beforehand. Okay, I didn't see on my audio here where it allows me to change tracks. Well, I guess that's maybe a problem for another day. Okay, so let's get out of here and let's look at our list of to-do list here. I think we're getting pretty close to getting through this. And I'm probably going to cover this over with what's my gig, where I'm going to change this over and I'm going to show you how I do my things. Uh, there we go. I'll change the display over so you can see what I'm up to here. It's basically the same thing you're looking at right now, except I have it reversed. Yeah, and it's kind of handy. I like it. Sorry, I'm messing up here. Okay, so that's that. Let's go back over here. Let me give you the tour of how my things are done. So what am I going to do? I'm going to change the display capture. Give that a click, and I'm going to let you see the other side of this here. Not the primary monitor, but my stuff. And we'll get out of that. And so we got a picture of a picture too, which isn't a good thing. But it's not doing what it's supposed to be doing here. Let me hide this. Try something over here on my thing. Computer only. Display capture. Come down and say OK. There we go. Okay, I'm sorry about the Hall of Mirrors, but this is showing my second display here. This is on my left-hand side, so I'm looking directly at you from the camera here. Oops, I'm sorry. Let me come down here and add my face to the deal. Okay, so I'm looking directly at you, and if I move my finger over 3 inches, I can change any of the settings here without having to take my eyes off of the camera. Very handy. And then I can also see if my sources are messed up or something like that. That's right here. I can easily fix that. And so you also see me that I have I left my transitions up. So if I wanted to, I can mess with them handily, but I just never have. So I kind of put them down and out of the way. I always want to be able to get to my settings and all my controls, especially this one here, the start and stop on here. So when I get ready to stop, I just move it over here, and I can kind of see it out of the corner of my eye, start and stop. Plus, I'm trying to get into the good habit of creating handles at the beginning and at the end of a scene. So for that handle, I'm only going to use this much of it, but that allows me to insert transitions nicely. If I'm sitting there like this, then I've got a little bit of time to put a transition on it with my keyboard down here with my famous 3 keys in the cut box, in the cut page, lickety split. It's just 2 buttons to go through the entire cut page. Down arrow, transition, down arrow, transition, down arrow, transition. Down arrow jumps from one cut to the next. Very handy. You can cover a lot of ground in a hurry. So that's kind of it for me now. For now, I'm going to jump out of this display capture. I'm going to go back to the primary screen. Otherwise, I'll forget. Oh, sorry, cancel. There we are. Okay. So that covers section 4 very handily. And it also begs the question why we're back to DaVinci. So that thing about being able to put finished video right inside of DaVinci, very handy. The being able to set this up like we did in the settings thing with 60 frames a second with the 3140 by 2160 to go right to that, because then we have a speed button to render everything. Click once, name it. You can even transfer the names over if you want from what you've just shot. I prefer to do that by hand because there's some keying that I use to move all this stuff over to the editor. If you start each of your, like I said, if you start each of your little files that you're moving over your clips, you're moving with a number, then that just makes the assembly so much easier. You don't have to mess around with it too much. Uh, okay, I think that's it, and I'm going to go study up and get ready to share section 5 with you. And I think we're getting close to the end of this class here. And hopefully we'll learn more about how DaVinci and OBS dovetail together. All right, see you in a little bit. Just sitting here looking at my picture thinking maybe I could use a little fill light up here on my face if I'm natural light to do my side lighting. Anyway, so we're back here for the finishing touches of this class of the complete video production, OBS Studio and DaVinci, and there really isn't anything that's going to help me coming in any further that I know of. I went through and looked at under section 5. There were some little plugins that work for this, all of which are plugged in or already made obsolete by using DaVinci as a editor, color, soundtrack, or what have you. The thing about doing multiple tracks I learned was having multiple audio sources, as I only have the one audio source coming into my my OBS right now. That would have been the thing that would have brought up more track availability for me. And the fact that it's not catching any audio off of what I've got going in the background there. So that was the answer to that one. So no plugins, they're just not necessary. There was one, a sound plugin, excuse me, not a sound plugin, but a switching plugin. You know, remember me telling you about coming over here and being able to look into the camera and change to whatever I want to change to without having without really having to lose my train of thought any more than I already do. Um, Age is a wonderful thing, I guess. So, at any rate, so that was made kind of moot by that. So then coming down to section 6, which is the streaming setup. I still don't know how all that really works yet. But as this whole semester for me started almost 4 weeks late, I'm thinking I'm going to strictly stick to what is usable for me and most valuable for my class and my business. So streaming, maybe later on when it comes up, I'll learn how to do it. Can't be that difficult. Uh, and every time I've ever seen it done, which has only been about 3 times, I'm a big YouTuber. I've only seen the streaming thing done a few times in my life. And you got to be really patient to want to sit through one of those, but they got the list of things going up on the side. Everybody's trying to stream and commenting, and the list is 4 or 5 seconds behind what's happening on the stream. It just doesn't seem something that's all that useful to me. So we'll gloss past that. And then here's the last bit of weirdness here. As we look at this, this was like their bonus track of things, and using your phone as a microphone, using a phone as a webcam, record phone screen on your PC. All things that might be handy for somebody of another generation, but not for me. Now, that said, I have a Pixel Pro 7 and can do all of this, including edit video, without having to touch any of this. I can put some basic edits on a video and edit a complete episode of one of my friends is, say, like a short or something like that, or one of my clients is little, he's got a 2-minute format that he gives out advice for health and fitness and whatnot for 2 minutes. I can edit in his already made pre-logo stings and all that and post that in everything from my phone. So I consider that a win, and I consider this well covered here without having to integrate my phone into everything. If I was going to do this, integrate my phone with anything, I think I've already done a pretty good job, and it was a fairly expensive thing. So all that said, I'm not trying to cop out on you. I'm just trying to make good use of our time here. Um, and because of the fact that coming up is, well, first off, we got Fairlight to get through, which is the sound portion of DaVinci, and we got a little extended coloring class coming up that I'd like to get through without having to be under the gun. But after that, there's 3 weeks straight of getting through Final Cut Pro X that I have never touched before. I have no idea what's happening. I just bought a new Mac Studio a couple of months ago, and that came with the bundle that I purchased. And so, yeah, I think that a true video editor, a modern day video editor, should be able to sit down and edit in Premiere Pro very well, should be able to sit down and edit very well in DaVinci Resolve very well, as I think there's going to be a lot more opportunity in the future for that happening across the world stage and not just in movie studios. Then, of course, editing in Final Cut Pro. People love that, and I respect that. And I've looked into it a little bit, and it's powerful, variable. It's got some nice stuff, and has the ability to work with ProRes RAW and some of the other more exotic formats really, really well. Any rate, so we will see you in the next one. I've got to edit this together, and I think I will add a editing track to the end of this here just to show the mad scientist side of what's been happening. I kind of gypped you on some of the stuff that I didn't want to talk about. Okay, well, thanks a lot, and we will see you at the end of the video editing. And all right, very cool. Thank you. All right, guys, time to do some editing, I think. We're going to bring together the most recent class, which will all 7 sections will come into one video here for easy viewing. What else we got? All 7 sections. And right now, I'm just going to come over here and get it rolling. Let me over here and bring up the computer and me and over to DaVinci Resolve. Hopefully, I'm testing out my little theory about whether the OBS videos came out into the desktop or not. Okay, so you can go delete, new project. I'm going to call it new project. Great. Okay. Media pool. Add new location. So desktop. OBS videos. There we go. Select folder. Boom. Everything is right there. That's really cool. So let's move the whole shoot match down here. Change. And let's see what it changed it into just out of curiosity's sake. Project settings, 3030. Must have missed something somewhere. Timeline resolution. Well, it seemed to think that it's 3840 by 2160 out of that camera. So I'm going to leave it there for now. The video format that we're actually watching is just 1080p at 30 seconds. So that means this is what we're editing, and it doesn't mean that is what the final outcome is. All right, so something that requires a little bit more interest for later. So let's go over here to the Edit tab, Media Pool, Edit tab. You know what? Maybe we need to come back to the Media Pool tab. Excuse me. They put these in order for a reason. Let's highlight everything. Let's right click on it and go up and say create new timeline using selected clips. Timeline 1. That's fine. We're only going to have the one. Create. So here we are coming back over to the edit page. And let's go through in our edit page and just make sure that it truly is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we only have 7. So you know what this is doing right now? It looks like it might be picking up the the unfinished recording here. So where to start? Well, I always think a good place to start is with a title. Let's come up here and go to the effects tab for the titles. Something cool. I'm going to start searching out that one already. Yeah, I think I'm going to try this guy, see how that goes. Slide in and down. I don't know if I've done that one yet. There we go. Step back a little. Okay, there we go. We got it. So here's our box for the title. Control B. There's the. I think I want to break that up a little bit somehow. Oh, that's cool. I like that. I think we're going to have to size it down just a touch. All right. You know what we haven't done in a while is we haven't done something bright. Like it. Tracking line spacing. Maybe not so bold. Doesn't look like we could change it individually. And we can change some of the, let's twirl this down a little bit and see what's happening on that a little bit better. Hey everybody. So we're running across that problem again where our timing on these does not cover the it's got a late entrance and then playback, render cache, smart. Home, back. Hey everybody, and welcome. Still not thrilled that it's not finishing here. Okay, let's twirl this back up. Home. Should be showing you my keys instead of my face, huh? Yeah, I think I should just be showing you the computer only, and I'll tell you about it whenever I do something clever. Okay, let's see how that looks now. I don't know if it's going to finish or not. It's something I'm going to have to address later, it looks like. So let's come over here and start getting our our things correct here. So it's going to come up into trim edit mode. Change that by hitting T on my keyboard. Hey everybody. So I got a little bit of time to kill there, it looks like. So trim out. Trim in, rather. Excuse me. And we'll get right to before that. Just so we have enough room to, let's Control Z that. Let's Control A everything and come over here and link our sound and make sure that that's trimming at the same time now. So they will on our keyboard over here, we're going to hit trim in. Now it looks like leave just enough room so we can put a on the end of things there. Give it a quick play. Hey everybody, and that's nice. Okay, so remember I was talking to you about what happens next? Down arrow key. That jumps to the next cut. And since we're still in trim mode, and we'll take a look at this real closely here, we don't have. I started right in on that and didn't build myself in a handle like I'm supposed to. So let's come over to this side and say trim out and come down in here and see where we are at. I got a lot of dead air there, it looks like. Scooch over a little bit. Trim in. Okay, let's the next one. All right, guys, here we are back. See, that was a really uncomfortable little jump cut there. I don't even think it's going to let me do a transition. It did. I'll be darned. All right. All right. So that's it. You know what I'm forgetting here? All right, guys, here we are. Okay, I'm forgetting the play around key. The / key is also the play around key. Instead of stopping it and mousing it back with the jog shuttle, I should be just hitting the play around key, which will play around the cut. All right, guys, here we are back for section 2, which is. All right, guys, here we are back for section 2. Play around the cut. All right, guys, here we are back for section 2, which is. I wonder if there's any way that's adjustable. The play around the cut thing should go back a little further and show me more, if you ask me. I need a little bit of context to see how that's really going to transition. So that's it. We'll see you guys in the next one. All right, guys, here we are back. Yeah, it's a pain, but. All right, looks like I did a good job on this one to do both cuts nicely and have lots of room for handles. So let's get over here. And let's get over here. I'm really just twirling this and holding the. Here's section 3. Thank you. All right. Good morning. Not bad. Yeah, I don't even have to be near. I have to be near the clip to, or the cut to do the transition for the clips. Section 3. Thank you. All right. Good morning. Nice timing. We're getting pretty good at that. I do say so myself. Okay, I think maybe we're past that. So I'm making comedy jokes today. Back over here, side where we are working. Again, looks like we've done a fairly decent job of building some handles into our clips. Sorry, brain freeze there for a second. So let's bring it in. That side, I'm just holding down the trim in button. Now the trim out button. It just comes over here. And I see a little bit of sound in there. Let's come play that and see if it's anything worth keeping or not. I'll be back with talking about feet per second here in just a little bit. All right. Okay. Let me add just a little bit to that. Kind of smooth it out a little bit. I'm with talking about feet per second here in just a little bit. All right. All right. Okay, so I think it's worth mentioning here. I don't know what happened. So I think it's worth mentioning here that we've developed ourselves a new workflow, and I just kind of did it where because I've been very good about adding the handles on the things, that's kept me from having to go to the cut page and do kind of half-ass transitions on things. So I'm able to do a full proper transition here and go back even. And for example, I can time this transition here just by the push of a key and have been able to do everything without really touching the mouse at all. For example, let me show you this. This appears to be the new workflow now that we've done it correctly, or now that I've finally gotten around to doing it correctly. Okay, so with the down arrow key, you know what? I'm going to put the keyboard down here too. So we're here at the one we just finished with the down arrow key. The down arrow key. I see what when I went back, I had me on here, and when I went back over here and clicked on that, okay, now we're cooking. Okay, up arrow key. So we just finished this transition. Down arrow key brings us to the next transition here. Transition cut, whatever you want to call it here. And so you can see I did leave some room for handles here. How can we tell that? We can tell that because of the sound underneath of it, that there's nothing being said. That was fun. Thanks. For a little while, or on both sides of that. So what let's do then is we got our jog shuttle, come to one side or the other, doesn't matter. Hold down, trim out or trim in. Let's trim in this side there and make that a reasonable transition, creating ourselves a little. Now the trim out button. Come in. About the same amount. There's no science to it other than to trial and error. Here to do. That was fun. Thanks. All right. Okay, so not so bad. And with one more button, we'll put a transition in there, maybe make the transition a little bigger. All there is to it. And we're almost done with this. Down arrow key brings us to another transition. Cut, rather. Let's come in and get that side of it done. There you are. Okay, and this side of it done with the trim in key. Let's come over here and see if that little bit of sound is worth saving or not. There you are. Okay, week 4, continuing on with OBS and DaVinci Resolve. Oh, just sitting here looking at my picture thinking maybe. Okay, so I kind of was hamming that up a little bit in there. And so I'm going to leave that tail just a little bit longer so I can have a little more transition on. So let's see the trim out button here and come over here and get that transition on that side. Good. Good. Well, that was a big handle on there. Dovetail together. All right, see you in a little bit. Okay, not so bad. All right, bring that together. All right, let's have a look. All right, see you in a little bit. It was a little worth a little extra attention just because I kind of played it up while I was filming. All right, let's come back and give it a look. Dovetail together. All right, see you in a little bit. Just sitting here looking at my picture thinking maybe I could use a little fill light up here on my face if I'm natural light to do my side lighting. Anyway, so we're back here for the finishing touches of this class of the complete video production, OBS Studio and DaVinci, and there really isn't. Okay, I don't think we need to play the whole thing here. Let's go ahead and go to the end cut here. And what do we like to do best? We're going to bring us down another title. Put that in behind there. What are we going to say? Thanks. Because I'm a crappy typer. Thanks for Watching. Did I spell everything right? Oh my God. Finally got through one. Uh, let's bring our, we can kind of see what we can find something. Oh no, of course I couldn't get through without misspelling the word for. Outstanding. F-O-R. Hmm. Or Bell, huh? Oh, it's got a rough W on it. Chiller. Outstanding. Let's try Chiller. As long as we're going to do things in blood red today, Chiller seems to be the font for us. Bring that sizing up a touch. Our timing looks like here. See, not bad. I hope the first one, I won't know if that first one's going to come out correctly until until after I've rendered this. And that seems to be a problem with a lot of these canned uh, effects that came with it. Is the timing on them is a little bit. In fact, there was a whole section on how to fix that and extending it just a little bit or chopping it up before. Remember, we talked about putting a couple of incisions there and there and changing the timing and within each incision, doing the Shift R, which is the retime function, and changing the percentage of timing to 110, 104%, just to get everything to work out a little bit. Anyway, sounds like I got a lot of trouble. So let's hit the home button here. Go to the beginning. It looks like the blue line across the top of where that title work is says that it's rendered and will play normally. I'm going to pop this up to the big screen. Hit play. Hey, everybody. See, I'm not happy with that. Hmm. You'd think I'd be able to trim this. There we go. I'm going to come all the way up to. A. See. Give this a chance to render here. I'm going to pause while it's rendering. Okay, 25 hours later. Let's see how it looks.